Middle East is burning, and the calculations made in the Oval Office have officially collapsed into a regional catastrophe. Operation Epic Fury, launched on February 28, 2026, was sold to the American public as a masterstroke that would end the Iranian threat in 48 hours. Instead, Donald Trump has plunged the United States into what analysts are now calling his worst nightmare. The war has entered its second week with no breaks, and the element of surprise has been replaced by a grinding war of attrition. While the initial strike successfully eliminated Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei and over 40 top commanders in a coordinated decapitation effort, the anticipated surrender never came. Instead, the US and Israel are now carpet-bombing Tehran, while Iranian ballistic missiles rain down on Tel Aviv, Haifa, and Jerusalem. The strategic blunder began with the assumption that Iran would collapse like a house of cards, similar to the recent operation in Venezuela. But Iran is not Venezuela. By killing the entire central leadership, the United States inadvertently activated the Mosaic defense system, a decentralized military doctrine that allows 31 separate Iranian provinces to operate autonomously. There is no longer a central command to negotiate a ceasefire with. The Iranian foreign minister has confirmed that military units are now in a weapons-free mode, firing independently and refusing all calls for an agreement. This is no longer a surgical strike, but a total regional configuration. U.S. missions in Riyadh and Kuwait have been attacked, and embassies have been closed indefinitely. In a stunning admission of failure, the U.S. State Department has told hundreds of thousands of American citizens to leave the Middle East immediately, but provided no means for their evacuation. The busiest airports in the world, including Dubai International, have been shut down as Iranian drones strike civilian infrastructure. The cost of this misadventure has already exceeded $100 billion in just the first week. Trump's promise to end stupid wars has been replaced by a reality where he has authorized the bombing of 7 different countries simultaneously. As the Strait of Hormuz sits blocked and global energy taps are turned off, the world is realizing that the door to war was easy to open, but is now impossible to close. The tactical reality on the ground has shattered the White House narrative of a clean victory. While Israeli officials celebrate the death of the supreme leader, the Iranian military has proven it can still strike with lethal precision. The U.S. military carried out 900 strikes in just 12 hours, an intensity that makes the previous shock and awe campaign in Iraq look small in comparison. But for every bunker destroyed, a new front opens. The most horrific evidence of this unguided escalation occurred in the southern town of Minab. An American or Israeli missile struck a girls' primary school, killing over 150 people, most of them children. This tragedy has not brought about the revolution Trump expected. Instead, it has radicalized even the most moderate Iranians, uniting them against what they perceive as a foreign invasion. On the other side of the Gulf, the cost of war is now being counted in American lives. 6 U.S. service members, mostly National Guard soldiers from Iowa, were killed in a drone strike on a makeshift operations center in Kuwait. This was not a lucky shot. Emerging intelligence reveals a terrifying shift in the geopolitical landscape. Russia is reportedly providing Iran with real-time satellite imagery to target American assets. By using Russia's space-based surveillance, Iranian drones are finding gaps in sophisticated U.S. air defenses, including the billion-dollar THAAD systems. 4 of these prized defensive units have already been destroyed by low-cost Iranian suicide drones. Trump's dismissal of these reports as stupid questions has done nothing to protect the sailors and airmen now trapped in a regional crossfire. The conflict has spilled far beyond Iran's borders, turning the Persian Gulf into a logistical graveyard where American dominance is being tested by $20,000 drones and Russian intelligence. While the White House posts Grand Theft Auto-style memes and boasts of unlimited munitions, the largest U.S. military hospital in Europe has halted its labor and delivery services to prepare for an expected wave of mass casualties. This is the reality of a war that has no clear objective and an enemy that has nothing left to lose. The economic shockwaves of this strategic blunder are now hitting the global market with the force of the Strait of Hormuz, which carries 20% of the world's daily oil supply, is now a de facto dead zone. Traffic has plummeted by 90% as Iran threatens to sink any vessel that enters the waterway. Only 3 gas and oil tankers have dared to cross the strait in recent days, compared to the normal flow of 20 million barrels every 24 hours. This massive disruption has caused global oil prices to skyrocket toward $100 per barrel, a surge that is already draining the wallets of Americans at the gas pump. While Trump claims the United States has no issue with munitions, he has quietly called for emergency meetings with defense contractors like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon to quadruple weapons production. The American Treasury is bleeding nearly $900 million every day to sustain a military campaign that still lacks a clear exit framework. Inside Iran, The power vacuum was filled not by a democratic revolution, but by an even more dangerous hardliner. The Assembly of Experts has officially named Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the late supreme leader, as the country's new top authority. This 56-year-old leader is described as a shadow influencer with deep ties to the Revolutionary Guard and a visceral hatred for Western intervention. Trump's insistence on unconditional surrender has effectively cornered this new regime, leaving them with no choice but to escalate their asymmetric warfare. The regional partners who once privately supported American pressure are now terrified as their own cities become primary targets. Qatar has shut down its liquefied natural gas operations, and Kuwait has been forced to reduce its crude output to historic lows. Even Israel's celebrated Iron Dome is showing signs of saturation as Iran utilizes decoy swarms to overwhelm high-tech interceptor systems. The White House is now trapped in a cycle where it must commit more forces simply to protect the assets already in theater, turning a supposed short-term strike into a nightmare of regional instability. The United States has just made its most desperate move yet, surging a third nuclear supercarrier, the USS George H.W. Bush, into the Persian Gulf. This brings the total concentration of American naval air power to levels not seen since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. But while the White House projects an image of overwhelming force, the reality is a logistical nightmare. The U.S. is burning through its interceptor stockpiles at a rate that is unsustainable. We are witnessing a fiscal war of attrition, where the Pentagon spends $2 million on a single Patriot missile to shoot down a $20,000 Iranian drone. Iran's drizzle strategy is working exactly as planned, forcing the U.S. and Israel to exhaust their high-tech defense systems while Iranian launchers remain hidden in naturally fortified mountain bases. This strategic blunder has also shattered the unity of the Western alliance. In London, Prime Minister Keir Starmer's initial refusal to allow the use of British bases for the strike has led to a bitter and public feud with Donald Trump. The president has openly mocked the United Kingdom, calling them a once great ally while dismissing their late offer to send the Prince of Wales aircraft carrier. At home, the political cost is mounting. A recent poll found that for the first time, a strong majority of Americans strongly disapprove of the president's handling of the war, with his overall approval cratering to a new low of 38%. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill describe being horrified by classified briefings that reveal a complete lack of a coherent justification for the conflict. Even as the U.S. military turns to Ukraine for expertise on shooting down Iranian drones, the White House is simultaneously removing sanctions on Russian oil to prevent an immediate global economic collapse. This contradictory policy is enriching Vladimir Putin's war machine, while Russian intelligence reportedly continues to help Iran target American service members. Trump's masterstroke has become a trap of his own making, where every escalation only serves to deepen the abyss. The world's sole superpower is discovering that even 3 carrier strike groups cannot hide the fact that the tactical victory of day one has turned into a strategic defeat. As the fires in the Persian Gulf intensify, the world is witnessing the dawn of a new and terrifying era of ghost leadership. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is now estimated to spend 90% of his time in the air, governing from 35,000 feet because the ground in Israel has become a permanent kill zone. Even in Jordan, a supposed safe haven for Western assets, Iran has managed to blind the United States military's crown jewel. A surgical strike using low-cost drones successfully destroyed the primary sensor of a $500 million THAAD radar system. This loss of high-tech eyes has left the regional defense shield with a critical and exploitable gap. In Tehran, a literal hellscape has descended upon 17 million people. Massive strikes on oil refineries have caused a phenomenon known as black rain, where toxic smoke and spilled fuel mix with the elements to coat the capital in a thick, oily residue. This environmental and humanitarian catastrophe has triggered a dangerous fracture inside the Iranian government. In a moment of apparent desperation, the Iranian president publicly apologized to his neighbors and hinted at a surrender, only to be immediately overruled by the hardline military establishment. While the political branch pleads for diplomacy, rogue military units are operating independently, launching more missiles at Dubai and Bahrain to prove the fight is far from over. This civil war within the regime is turning every diplomatic effort into a trap for the White House. Trump's team is now attempting to negotiate with a government that cannot control its own commanders, making every ceasefire promise a hollow gesture. Meanwhile, ordinary Iranians have begun a dangerous quiet revolt. Citizens are now sharing the GPS coordinates of secret Revolutionary Guard hideouts on the internet, hoping to guide Western strikes toward the soldiers who are using civilian neighborhoods as human shields. The regime is losing control of its streets and its army, even as it continues to rain fire on the rest of the Middle East. The strategic horizon of 2026 has been permanently altered by what is now recognized as a generational miscalculation. President Trump's gamble on a quick regime change has instead sparked a multi-front regional war with no clear exit strategy. While the White House continues to boast of tactical successes, the political foundation at home is crumbling as his strong disapproval rating reached a new second-term low of 38%. This conflict has not only failed to bring democracy to Iran, but has entrenched a more radicalized and defiant leadership under Mojtaba Khamenei, who now carries the legacy of his father's blood as a wartime supreme leader. The international order is being rewritten as the United States finds itself increasingly isolated, with traditional allies like the United Kingdom and France condemning the invasion as unlawful and outside international law. Meanwhile, the true winners of this blunder are sitting in Moscow and Beijing. Russia has effectively used the conflict to entrench its strategic partnership with Tehran, reportedly providing the critical space-based intelligence that led to the deaths of American service members. China has capitalized on the chaos to further isolate the United States from global energy markets while securing its own interests through the use of the yuan for oil payments. The economic fallout for the average American is staggering, as headline inflation is projected to climb above 4% due to the effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz and surging energy costs. The humanitarian failure is perhaps the darkest part of this legacy, defined by the smoldering ruins of the school in Minab and the more than 1,300 people killed in strikes across the country. Their martyrdom has unified a nation against Western intervention in a way the regime could never have accomplished alone. This war was supposed to be a masterstroke to save a presidency and secure the Middle East, but it has instead become a forever war that threatens to drain the American treasury for years to come. Donald Trump opened the doors of war with a 6-minute social media video, but he has found that closing them will require a cost in blood and treasure that the American people never agreed to pay. Operation Epic Fury has not ended the threat. It has merely lit a fuse that will have consequences of war in many regions of the world for decades.